Right now, in your yard in July, there is a plant sitting in full bloom that looks completely harmless. You water it, you walk past it, your kids play near it, your dog sniffs it. Nobody at the garden center told you what it actually is. Today, we are going through 10 plants that quietly sit in American gardens every summer, plants sold in the same aisle as your tomatoes and your basil, that carry a level of danger most homeowners never hear about. And the last one on this list is growing in more backyards than any other plant we cover today. Stay with me, this one matters. Welcome to PlantEdge, the channel for gardeners who want to know what the garden centers won't tell you. Every week, we break down the science behind what's actually growing in your yard, what helps you, what quietly works against you, and what nobody bothered to put on the plant tag. Plant 1. Oleander. Oleander is one of the most popular flowering shrubs in the American South and Southwest, and it's easy to see why. It's drought-tolerant, it blooms for months, and it fills out a hedge line faster than almost anything else on the market. Scientifically, Nerium oleander contains cardiac glycosides in every part of the plant, leaves, stems, flowers, even the sap. These compounds interfere directly with heart rhythm. This isn't a plant that causes mild stomach discomfort. Poison control centers in warm weather states treat oleander exposure as a serious call, every time. Oleander thrives across USDA zones 8 through 11, the Gulf Coast, Florida, Texas, Arizona, and Southern California, with protected pockets of it growing as far north as Zone 8A in the Pacific Northwest. The most common retail varieties are the standard single-flowered Nerium oleander, along with the smaller shrub forms sold under names like Petite Pink and Calypso, both widely available at big box garden centers. The mistake most homeowners make is treating oleander as background landscaping, a plant so common that it must be harmless. Dogs and cats are highly sensitive to it, and even the smoke from burning oleander clippings carries the same toxic compounds. If oleander is already established near a play area or a dog run, that's worth a placement decision today, not someday. Plant 2. Foxglove. Foxglove is one of the most photographed plants in cottage garden content, and it earns that reputation. Tall spikes, soft bell-shaped flowers in purple, pink, and cream. It's a genuinely stunning border plant. It's also the original plant source of digoxin, a powerful heart medication that, in its raw, unregulated plant form, is highly toxic. Every part of Digitalis purpurea is poisonous: leaves, flowers, seeds, and roots. Even a small amount of fresh leaf material can cause vomiting, confusion, and dangerous cardiac irregularity. Children are drawn to it specifically because of how the flowers look, like tiny bells or gloves, practically built for small hands to want to touch. Foxglove is remarkably widespread, thriving in USDA zones 4 through 10, meaning it grows comfortably from the Pacific Northwest and upper Midwest all the way through the Northeast and into the Mountain West. The species most commonly sold is Digitalis purpurea, though the yellow-flowered Digitalis grandiflora is increasingly available at specialty nurseries. The real risk with foxglove isn't just the planted specimen, it's how aggressively it self-seeds. One mature plant can produce dozens of volunteer seedlings the following year, popping up in vegetable beds, play areas, and anywhere else the wind or birds happen to carry the seed. Plant 3. Lily of the Valley. Lily of the Valley has one of the most deceiving reputations of any plant on this list. It's small. It's fragrant. It's often associated with wedding bouquets and shaded cottage gardens. Nothing about it visually suggests danger. But Convallaria majalis contains cardiac glycosides similar to those in foxglove and oleander, present in the leaves, flowers, and especially the small red berries that follow the blooms. Ingestion can cause vomiting, an irregular heartbeat, and in significant exposure, more serious cardiac effects. It's especially risky around toddlers, who are drawn to the bright red berries at exactly the height where they're easy to reach and easy to put in a mouth. Lily of the Valley thrives in USDA zones 2 through 7, making it a staple of shaded gardens across the entire northern half of the country, from New England through the upper Midwest and into the Pacific Northwest. Most gardeners plant it because it spreads easily and asks for almost nothing in return. But that same low-maintenance spread is exactly why it often ends up naturalized well beyond where it was originally planted, sometimes into areas where small children play unsupervised. Plant 4. Castor Bean. Castor Bean is sold as a dramatic architectural annual, huge, deeply lobed leaves in bronze, green, and deep red purple, capable of hitting 6 to 10 feet in a single summer. As a landscape statement piece, it's genuinely impressive. It's also the plant ricin is derived from. The seeds, held in spiny, eye-catching pods, contain concentrations of ricin high enough that a small number of chewed seeds poses a serious risk, particularly to a child. Ricinus communis grows as a perennial in USDA zones 9 through 11, Florida, Southern California, the Gulf Coast, and as a fast-growing annual almost everywhere else, zones 4 through 8. The compact ornamental varieties, often sold under names referencing their red or bronze foliage, are common at spring plant sales, specifically because of how quickly they establish visual impact. If there are young children in the household, the seed pods alone, spiny, unusual, genuinely interesting to a curious kid, are reason enough to keep this one out of accessible garden space entirely. Plant 5. Azalea and Rhododendron. This is the plant most people are genuinely surprised to see on a list like this. Azaleas and rhododendrons are planted in more American front yards than almost anything else in this video. Foundation plantings, entryways, shaded borders. They feel completely ordinary. Every part of the plant in the genus Rhododendron contains grayonotoxins, compounds that affect the nervous and cardiovascular systems. Ingestion of leaves or flowers can cause vomiting, weakness, and in more serious cases, dangerous drops in blood pressure and heart rate. There's even a documented history of mad honey poisoning, when bees forage heavily on rhododendron nectar, and the resulting honey carries the same toxin. Azaleas and rhododendrons cover an enormous range, from USDA zones 4 through 9, meaning nearly every region of the continental United States has some variety suited to its climate. The mistake here isn't planting them. It's the assumption that because they're everywhere, they must be safe everywhere. Dogs in particular are documented to chew on the leaves and flowers, and any household with a young puppy or a grazing pet should know exactly where these plants sit on the property. Plant 6. English and Japanese Yew. Yew has been trimmed into hedges outside churches, courthouses, and tidy suburban yards for generations. If you grew up in the Northeast, the Mid-Atlantic, or the Pacific Northwest, there's a real chance a yew hedge was part of your childhood without you ever thinking twice about it. Taxus baccata and Taxus cuspidata contain taxane alkaloids in the needles, bark, and seeds, compounds that act directly on the heart. Almost every part of the plant is toxic to humans, dogs, cats, and horses. The single exception is the soft red aril surrounding the seed, which is not itself toxic, but the seed inside it is, and a child who bites into that seed rather than spitting it out has consumed something that needs immediate medical attention. English yew is hardy in zones 6 through 8, while Japanese yew tolerates the colder winters of zones 4 through 7, making it the standard hedge choice across much of the upper Midwest and the Northeast. The mistake with yew is rarely the planting decision. It's the assumption that an established hedge, present for decades, must be broadly safe simply because it's common. Veterinary poisoning data tells a different story, especially for dogs with unsupervised yard access. Plant 7. Monkshood. Monkshood is a favorite of shaded cutting gardens, prized for its tall spikes of deep blue-purple, hood-shaped flowers. It's genuinely one of the most striking perennials you can grow in partial shade. Aconitum contains aconitine, a compound considered by many toxicologists to be among the most acutely dangerous found in any commonly grown garden plant, and the danger isn't limited to ingestion. Aconitine can absorb directly through the skin, meaning bare-handed pruning, dividing, or cutting stems for a bouquet carries real risk, especially with any small cut or abrasion on the hands. Monkshood thrives in USDA zones 3 through 7, common across the Pacific Northwest, the upper Midwest, and the Northeast. The mistake here isn't usually the planting, it's the handling. Many gardeners work around monkshood for years without incident simply because they happen to wear gloves out of habit. The real risk shows up the one time someone snaps off a stem bare-handed for a quick indoor arrangement. The rule with this plant is simple: gloves, every time, no exceptions. Plant 8. Angel's Trumpet. Angel's Trumpet produces some of the most dramatic flowers of any plant on this list. Large, fragrant, trumpet-shaped blooms that hang downward from a shrub that can reach 15 feet in warm climates. It's a genuine showpiece. Brugmansia contains tropine alkaloids, scopolamine, hyoscyamine, and atropine throughout the entire plant. These compounds don't just cause stomach upset. They affect the central nervous system, causing confusion, hallucination, a racing heart, and in serious cases, coma. There's also a documented pattern of teenagers intentionally misusing the plant after researching its alkaloid content online, which makes it a more complicated household risk than most ornamentals. Angel's Trumpet grows as a perennial in zones 9 through 11, California, Florida, Texas, the Gulf Coast, and as a container plant overwintered indoors much further north, which means it shows up seasonally on patios from the Midwest through the Northeast. If Angel's Trumpet is growing in a household with teenagers, that's a conversation worth having directly, not assuming everyone already understands the risk. Plant 9. Autumn Crocus. Autumn crocus earns its spot on this list because of timing, not just toxicity. It blooms in late summer and fall with no leaves present at all, just the flower pushing straight up out of bare soil. Then, in spring, the foliage appears with no flower in sight, broad green leaves that get mistaken by foragers for wild garlic or edible onion greens. Colchicum autumnale contains colchicine throughout the entire plant, a compound with legitimate medical use at controlled doses, but capable of causing severe gastrointestinal distress and bone marrow suppression when the whole plant is ingested, and it can be fatal without treatment. It thrives in USDA zones 4 through 8, common across the Midwest, the Northeast, the Mid-Atlantic, and the Upper South, usually purchased as part of a fall bulb collection, a name that itself misleads buyers into expecting something as harmless as a spring crocus. If autumn crocus is already growing on your property, the practical step is simple. Mark the bed clearly and make sure everyone who tends that area, not just you, knows what's planted there. We're past the halfway mark. If one of these 9 plants is already growing in your yard, drop a comment with your state and your USDA zone. I read through these, and it genuinely helps shape which plants we cover in future breakdowns. And we still haven't gotten to the plant I opened this video with, the one growing in more backyards than any other plant on this list. It's next. Plant 10. Sago Palm, the hidden one. Here it is, the plant I mentioned at the very beginning. Sago palm doesn't look dangerous. It looks like a small, sculptural, almost prehistoric houseplant, stiff, dark green fronds radiating out from a thick central trunk. It's sold as an indoor accent plant, a patio specimen, and increasingly as outdoor landscaping in warmer states. It reads as tropical and decorative, not hazardous. Every part of Cycas revoluta is toxic, but the seeds carry by far the highest concentration of the toxic compound psychocin, in dogs specifically. Ingestion of even a small amount of sago palm seed can cause liver failure, and veterinary data consistently ranks it among the most dangerous common ornamentals for pets, with a fatality rate in dogs that's genuinely alarming compared to most other plants on this list. Sago palm grows outdoors in USDA zones 9 through 11, Florida, the Gulf Coast, Southern California, and parts of Texas, and as a container plant nearly everywhere else, which means it spends summers on patios and porches across the entire country, often at exactly dog height. The reason this plant is the hardest one to catch isn't the toxicity, it's the framing. Nobody thinks of a houseplant sitting by the front door as a landscaping hazard. If there's a dog in the house and a sago palm on the patio, that's a proximity decision worth making today. What to plant instead? The point of this video was never to leave you with 10 problems and no direction. Here's what to plant instead, matched category by category. In place of oleander, for a fast-growing flowering hedge, consider Azalea. It delivers similar bloom coverage and drought tolerance across zones 6 through 9, without the cardiac risk. In place of Foxglove, for tall cottage garden height, lupin offers a comparable vertical spike and an even wider color range, thriving in zones 4 through 8. In place of lily of the valley, for a fragrant, low-shade ground cover, try sweet woodruff, similar spread habit, similar shaded charm across zones 4 through 8. In place of castor bean, for bold tropical foliage, canna lily delivers the same dramatic leaf presence and fast summer growth in zones 7 through 10, without the seed toxicity. In place of azalea, for a flowering foundation shrub, consider summersweet, which blooms reliably in part shade across zones 3 through 9. In place of yew, for a formal evergreen hedge, arborvitae remains the standard swap full structure, zones 3 through 7, with a dramatically safer profile for dogs. In place of monkshood, for shaded border height, tall garden phlox offers comparable vertical presence in zones 4 through 8 without the dermal risk. In place of angel's trumpet, for dramatic tropical flowers, a large standard hibiscus gives you similar visual drama without the alkaloid concern. In place of autumn crocus, for a fall blooming bulb, consider fall-blooming crocus species that lack colchicine. Your local extension office can confirm safe species for your zone. And in place of sago palm, for a similar sculptural, architectural look, ponytail palm offers the same visual structure with a far safer toxicity profile for pets. Even with all of this information, there are 3 specific ways people still get this wrong. The first mistake is assuming removal solves the problem instantly. Plants like autumn crocus and pokeweed-type root systems can leave bulb or root material behind that regrows the following season. Removing the visible plant is the start of the process, not the end of it. The second mistake is choosing a safer category without checking the specific variety. Arborvitae instead of yew is correct as a category swap, but individual varieties still differ in mature size, structure, and hardiness. The same 15 minutes of research you'd spend on anything else in your yard still applies here. The third mistake, and this is the one almost everyone makes, is knowing this information yourself and never passing it on to whoever else touches your yard. The person who mows your lawn, the family member who waters the back bed, the neighbor who helps with yard work. None of them know what you just learned unless you tell them. That conversation takes 4 minutes, and it's the difference between a decision that protects your household and one that only protects the hours you personally spend outside. That's 10 plants, 10 zone ranges, and 10 safer alternatives. The kind of practical, science-grounded breakdown that's genuinely useful the next time you're standing in a nursery aisle deciding what goes in the ground. If this kind of information is useful to you, PlantEdge puts out a new one of these every week. Real plant science, zone by zone, without the marketing spin. See you in the next one.